debut volume from Claudia Esnuf, Walk Like a Girl. And while, simply because we know the Esnufs, it's lovely to have them here for the launch. Come on in, the water's fine. There is space at the back.
Exactly. Can you just
move right on down the car, please, sir? It's doubly appropriate that Claudia has come here this evening with her book about walking through feeling, because that's exactly what Robert Louis Stevenson did on so many occasions in his life. I won't bore you with any of the detail, but if you read Travels with a Donkey in the Cevennes, or The Inland Voyage, or his wonderful essay about walking tours, you'll understand a little about that. I could think of nothing more appropriate to start the evening with tonight than to present Claudia with a book that contains both the Stevenson's Inland Voyage and his groundbreaking little travel memoir, Travels with a Donkey in the Cevennes, where, exactly as Claudia did, Stevenson was walking through a crisis in his personal life and working things out in his head as he ate up the miles. So Claudia, with great pleasure, and I hope that you enjoy reading the accounts on behalf of the Stevenson House.
Okay, and then
I think Jim.
If the gentleman's finished. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jim Campbell. I'm from Sparzel Books, and Sparzel Books has the great privilege of publishing Walk with a Girl. Before we go any further, could I ask everyone to either switch off or put their phones on silent, please, because it doesn't matter if you interrupt me, but it tends to throw people off their track when they're talking about things important like literature. Sparzel Books is a very small publisher in Glasgow. We're very specialist. We only publish books that we think are worth publishing. We don't care if they fit in a genre. We don't care if they're the latest fashion. They have to be good. And usually they have to be very well written as well. When we received the inquiry from Claudia and then the manuscript, our esteemed head of publication, Leslie F. Rossman there, got so excited that she phoned me up just to read bits out. We were absolutely delighted when Claudia decided to come with us. I'm sure you probably had other options, but you didn't take them up, and I'm very glad you didn't. And we would like to essentially thank everyone for coming, welcome you all. You have already been welcomed to this beautiful house. We would like to welcome you to the Sparzel greater audience, if you like. But you didn't come here to listen to me, you came here to meet and to listen to our beautiful and brilliant author, and if I may, I will now hand you over to her. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get past.
yeah, exactly. Everybody come in, and if you want to refill your glasses, this is the moment to do so. There is also a bathroom due north here, and otherwise, what we are proposing to do is that I'll ask Claudia some stupid question, giving her the opportunity to give some very clever answers. And then hopefully a few of you will also ask her questions, either because you're intrigued by what we're talking about or because you've even already read the book. So, Claudia, we're all in awe because everybody has a story, but you actually wrote it down. How long have you been thinking about writing?
Yeah, so this particular story, obviously the book is about a amazing trip I did. I never knew it was going to be so amazing and it was going to be that long and that a lot of things would happen along the way. But a lot of people ask me, did you set out going to write about this? And I didn't. I didn't know this trip was going to be what it was. And in fact, I was trying to write something fictional at the time. But then when I got stuck for 6 weeks in Kathmandu, and I believe we do have a lovely Nepali girl here to understand the scenery there, I was trying to figure it out. And someone I was traveling with at the time said, why are you even bothering with that? Just write what you're doing right now. And that's when I got the sort of light bulb moment of, no, they've got a point. But I didn't really listen until I then finished my journey and came back to Edinburgh, where I was staying in a cousin's friend's sofa. I didn't have a job. I didn't know anyone at the time. And then I decided to write up all the journals that I'd been posting back on my trip. And when I started writing them up, I realized, okay, there is a story here. And that's how it started.
Okay. And I mean, what kept you going writing? Because there's one thing between writing down your journals and finding out, yes, there's a book in there, but then there's a huge leap of faith to actually, make it in a manuscript form, actually going out and approaching, publishing houses, which is my personal idea of hell.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so then it ties into the sort of wonderful Edinburgh community I have, because I found a lovely job at the Edinburgh chaplaincy, and Reverend Harriet is here today, and that gave me that stability. And then I found a beautiful writing course, and some of the girls are here today, and that they started giving me the confidence that there was a book there. And we, at the Arthur and Conan Doyle Centre down the road in an attic, we would meet up once a week at night, and we'd all exchange ideas, and we were each writing our own books, and I had the idea. And then I thought I'd finished it. And then I spoke to my lovely editor, Claire Wingfield, who I loved, but at that time I hated, because she said to me, you're going to have to rewrite that whole thing again, and because you're writing it in a far too stagnant version. You're writing up your journals, you're in a bit of denial about a lot of these feelings. So why don't you fictionalize the characters a bit? Why don't you compress some of the timelines? Change the name of the main character, and I think you have a much better story. And that was the best advice I've had. I hated her at the time, but I did it. And then after that I said, okay, well, we had a slight, what do you call a thing in the spanner? We had sort of 2 children in 1 year at that time, so things got a little bit delayed. But once I got back on it, I went through the pitching journey, which is, I don't know if anyone's done it yet. I know people have. It is the hardest, most arduous journey. It's like applying for a job, but you're a drop in the ocean, and you want your book to be read and recognized in a certain way. And as Jim was saying, there were opportunities, but it wasn't the right people, because they wanted me to change the main character into a boy or just focus on one country. And I wanted someone who recognized the whole journey, the external journey of all the beautiful countries, but also the internal journey of, which is important to, that's why it's important to write the whole, it was a whole story. I wanted someone to really recognize that, and then Leslie did, and we really had that connection from that first phone call. She published another beautiful book before that really resonated with me, about a girl who'd gone to Egypt, and so it just felt very instantaneous. These were my people. And they were Scottish, which was my dream. And I really wanted that, because the book starts and ends in Scotland, and it meant a lot to me that they were from here. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like, to recap it for people who haven't been, so basically Claudia's character leaves with her fiancé Edinburgh, and they have to take a one-way trip ticket to Georgia. And then they start walking, and they walk, and they walk, and they walk. And according to the main character, it's predominantly uphill. It's a very rocky road. She starts off her journey with hair straighteners in her luggage, and wonders why it's also heavy. And then eventually they go further east, and eventually they split in Nepal, and India. And then she decides, well, actually, these boots have still got some walking to do. So she flies to France and does the Camino. But she doesn't only do the Camino, she does it in winter. And she doesn't do it only in winter, she does it during the Beast from the East, which we all, suffer from. And then ends up in Santiago de Compostela and then thinks, well, that was all right, but I think I'll just do another bit. And so she keeps on sort of walking. And what I find, the book is very relatable to women, because the main character is a woman, and it's quite difficult when one knows Claudia to actually see, no, surely that wasn't you. Surely that's your fictional character. So you keep on wondering throughout the whole book what is her and what is Antonia. But how does your husband feel about this book, who has been your main supporter and has looked after the babes whilst you were editing and all the rest of it?
Yeah, I mean, it can't be easy because we went on our first date and I immediately told him, hey, I'm writing this enormous book. I'm quite obsessed with it, really, and it's all about my ex-boyfriend. So well, he's still here. But at no point did he ever question it. He was so proud of me from the beginning. He wanted me to finish it, and in fact, in the dedication, amongst others, he really was. A lot of people inspired me for different things. Peter was the one who made me finish this book because there were so many times.
He just wanted you to be over. He wants to have dinner on the table.
And I mean, in those lows, as writers know, I mean, writing is a very antisocial, lonely, moody job. You know, it takes a while to get into the headspace, and then when you do, you can't get out of it, and then you come out of it and you're in such a bad mood for the rest of the day, and it dominates the rest of it if it was a bad day of writing, and then if it was a good day, you just want to talk about it the whole time. And I mean, it must be so. It just have to be with someone who's not married to a writer, I can imagine. But he definitely, I mean, he took the babies out every Saturday for a couple of hours to just make me finish it. So he was very supportive the whole way. Yeah.
But what has been the most unusual reaction you've had from readers to the book?
Well, I had an interesting one the other day who I don't think she realized it was my memoir. And she says, I can't stand the main character. And then Peter picks up, he says, don't take it personally. It's me.
But it is a very relatable character. Occasionally you read about women and you find them just absolutely and totally inspirational. But you present yourself, I dare say you won't do that with your 25th novel, with warts and all. You do lay your soul pretty bare, and that's what I found so relatable. I did get cross with you on occasion. I thought, just can you please tell me what the landscape is like? I know it's uphill. But I want to hear, what, the shades of green, and what birds you're hearing, and all these kind of things. And but then one does, one can really relate to the main character, which is why I would, encourage all of you to read it. And there's one thing, for example, also on the Camino, where it is it's not a walking holiday, it's something spiritual you do. You're meant to leave something behind. And it's all about either the connections you make or the solitude, which is different to the loneliness. So it is. I found that really, really interesting. Just to hear your voice through that journey, I could totally relate that one day she walked 2 days lots because she just by mistake, but it was sort of she just kept on walking. And so what was your biggest takeaway from the Camino? What did you leave behind?
I think, as I said before, the whole journey was a journey, but it was an external and an internal journey. And as you say, I keep on complaining about the uphills, but at the beginning I didn't realize how hard it was going to be. So yeah, you've got the hair straighteners, the paperback novels, everything in, and I started off with like 30 kg going up all these huge mountains, and towards the end when I reached the Camino, I matured. I was getting there, and as you said, I walked 2 Caminos, and the first Camino was really refinding myself, refinding faith. I'd been so used to traveling with men who had been carrying my backpack and telling me where to go, and
even if it's the wrong path.
even if it's the wrong path. I still hadn't completely learned because I took absolutely no map. I remember being on the Camino and halfway through someone saying, "Oh, have you read the John Briley maps?" which is the maps that everyone reads on the Camino. I've never heard of them before. I'd just been sort of following these yellow arrows. I didn't know how many kilometers I was walking every day. But I think you definitely sort of not find yourself on the way, but you start realizing what's important, what's not important. And that first Camino was very spiritual for me. And then when I went to Portugal and did the second one, I sort of went back into reality. I started speaking to people again. I made friends on that Camino. It was a more I guess like a softer landing back into after this incredible journey, and to come back to Edinburgh eventually. I sort of had two different Caminos, and I don't think you can have enough really.
Well, I would encourage you to then sort of do some of the pilgrimages around Scotland, because you love Scotland anyway so much, because well, Sam here, he's just done one with a group from St Giles, and apparently it was also quite inspirational. But basically, my last question is, what would you like people to take away from the book?
I think traveling is one of the most educational things you can do. I would strongly encourage my own two boys when they're older to go. Don't have a plan, just go meet people, learn about the world, and that's what my dad encouraged us to do. Don't put yourself in a box, just don't be so conventional especially when you're in your 20s. Go figure it out, and you might change partners, you might change careers. I think that traveling is really important. And on the flip side, I think writing a book, if anyone is a writer, don't give up, because it's a hard slog, but it's worth it.
The connection we have is really quite extraordinary, but also the connection between your travel book and this house, because, I mean, first of all, I think traveling is the only way to spend money and end up being richer. But then Stevenson said, it is better to travel hopefully than to arrive. And I think that's what you have done. The arrival was never about the end point. It was all about the journey. And so that's why we have felt so aligned to have this book launched in the house. Because it is very much, it's a book in Stevenson's spirit. So we are thrilled about it, and I'm now going to grab my copy, and I'm going to go downstairs, and I'm going to wait for Claudia to then afterwards to hopefully sign it. But have you got any questions, please? And yep.
I love the idea of writing what you know, and when I think you said that bearing your soul. Did you have a nervousness, even though you changed the main character's name, did you have a nervousness about putting your soul out there for effectively everyone to judge? And if so, how did you manage that in the run-up to the publication and it being published?
Well, I'm terrified right now. Yeah, of course, and especially with a memoir, you write with a sort of thing over your shoulder for a while, because God, my dad's going to read this, and my sister's going to say this isn't true, and but you have to shove that person away, because otherwise you're just never going to write it. And I also think that about 2 or 3 months ago, after we did the last edit, I just haven't read it again. I can't go there because it's too cringe to remember all those details. So I think I've now put it to bed for a while, and people come up and talk to me about a certain scene I'll remember, but I distance myself a bit.
You'll revisit it when it comes out as a screenplay.
Well, my kids have started asking, "Mommy, read it." I'm thinking, oh no.
Anybody else? Surely you must have questions. There we go.
Hi. So one of the things you said that is the takeaway for the readers is traveling. But so many of us have jobs and lives and routines. What would you say was your impulse to put that aside and just start traveling? And what would you suggest for other people who want to do it?
I think I always had that in me. When I moved to Scotland to begin with, and that's how the book starts, I moved from Chile to Scotland, and that hunger for knowing more was always there, whether it was just in Edinburgh or Scotland or more. And I think not either you have it or you don't, but no, I mean, I think you can even just explore your own city, but for me at least it was a curiosity. I think we've all got that in us, and I think you can do it even in a job, or even if you've got a family, in different ways you can explore things locally. But I definitely think it helps being 20-year-old, not having a job, going for it until your money runs out, sort of thing, on a big backpacking trip.
But do you actually have a budget?
A very, very low one.
Just stick to it.
Yeah, no, it was well, because we were hitchhiking and camping most of the time, so
Yeah.
actually I never had more savings in my life than when I came back. I was okay. Different story now.
There was somebody else, yes.
So in the future, do you think you'd be drawn more to memoir, or would you be drawn more to the fictional side of things because of the blend with this book?
Yeah, I was thinking of that this morning on my walk actually, and I am obsessed with memoirs and biographies, and I do love fiction, but I think there's so much that our real life has to offer in history and now that I think I would like to keep on exploring with memoir. Yeah.
Anybody else? I don't see people. Oh, there. Yeah.
Have you held on to the lessons that you find at the end of your journey?
Yeah, but I think they change. I think, in my case it's obvious, but in terms of, motherhood changed a lot of those lessons and you're relearning again. When I was reading that book in one of the edits, I feel totally different than I was then. And as you said, you didn't recognize me in it, and it's because it was 10 years ago. It was a different person making different mistakes. But then I guess it gives you the lesson that maybe 10 years time you will be a different person again. The lesson is to keep a journal.
I think that's probably quite. Yes, Sue?
It's to do with a book that's being transformed into a film called The Salt Path.
Yes.
I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yes.
From the south coast of England, and just wondered if you envisage something like that happening to you, somebody grabbing hold of it and saying, just make a film.
I would love it if someone came.
What did you think of their book?
I haven't read the book, but I've heard all about
Well,
it.
it
Yeah.
irritated me like because I travel solo a lot, and they were so impractical, and they were so incomprehensibly stupid about so many things. Like they got hungry one day, and after having no money and making a big song and dance in the book about how they had no money, they went to Pret-a-Manger, and then that bothered me enormously because if they were hungry and wanted a sandwich, you could get it cheaper than that way. And the other thing that irritated me was they hadn't brought enough provisions like water, and then when they had enough water, they filled a kettle and they had the thing to make it into tea. And then other walkers that were walking coastal paths said, "Oh, is that tea you're making?" They gave all their water and tea away, and then and now they went to Pret-a-Manger. Did you do anything like that?
So,
Did you do anything as
silly as
stupid,
that?
as silly as that?
oh, definitely. I can't remember off the top of my head, but
I mean, burying a diamond ring, I thought, really?
no, it wasn't a.
I know it was fiction, but at that moment I thought, really, Claudia?
I think it goes into, when I started the journey, I had explored all these wonderful books of explorers and people who'd done all these walks in modern day, but things like I didn't think of taking a map with me. I mean, what was I thinking? I wasn't. So there was definitely a lot of, and I mean, I'm not I hate the gym. I can run, but I'm not fit. So what did I think? I was going to come and just walk the Annapurna Trail, So yes, I did get lots of blisters, and I didn't think of it that way, but I did have this thing of this has to work. I really, really, really have to make this trip work. I've left a lot for this to work, so I just can't quit. And I think that also carries in because along the way in the Annapurna and the Caucasus Trail, on the Camino, you met all these people with these microfiber walking poles and tiny backpacks, and they were ultra marathon runners. And it's sort of like the tortoise and the hare, because especially on the Annapurna Trail, when you're dealing with altitude, these boys, these men are all going as fast as they can, and then the altitude's getting to them because they're doing it so fast, and you see them just have it like dropping like flies. They have to go back down, and if you go back down on the Annapurna, you're not coming back, for a few years. And so it was one of those things that, and that's one of the scenes in my book, that suddenly I like realized I was like the last one standing, and everyone else was sort of behind me and like throwing up, or had a huge headache. And so in sometimes it played to my benefits in being super slow and unprepared.
Thank you.
Can I ask, do you have a new pair of walking boots?
I've just moved back from South Africa and everything's been lost in the move, but I definitely need to go and get some new ones or dust up some old ones in some boxes which I still haven't unpacked.
Well, I'm not coming with you to Tyson. That's too arduous, poor Andy, so the way you're going to and from. But I can totally relate with this. I had a pair of shoes that I really, really liked, and something disastrous had happened to them. And I should have gotten rid of them, and it took me a good year. And so for you to ditch your walking boots that quickly, and I could, a lot was forgiven in that moment.
Yeah.
To the character, because I thought, this is, oh my word, I can feel it. I can exactly feel how hard it is for her to ditch a trashed pair of boots that are not even useful for planting something in. They just need to go.
Yeah.
And everybody sensible that hadn't been emotionally linked to these shoes would just say, just throw them out. What's your problem? But because of me having had something similar, I could so relate.
Yeah.
And it's really hard.
And
because it's not a physical thing, but you're letting go of something physical, but you're letting go of a lot of emotions with that.
And it's so physical and earthly. I mean, those shoes were caked in soil from all these countries, and it fit my feet so perfectly because it was so molded. They'd never given me a pair of blisters. It was just, yes, they had water in it and holes everywhere, but it was tough leaving those boots behind.
I think you deserve a good pair.
Yeah.
Next book.
Next book?
That's my dad asking. I think what Emma was asking me about memoir. I think I do want to explore that again. Some of you know I'm from Chile, and I had a wonderful upbringing in Brazil and Chile and Latin America, and I think there's something there to explore, some sort of memoir there about the myriad of cultures I had growing up.
Is that all right, Patrick? So, Kelly.
Do you plan maybe to take another journey when maybe the kids are at uni?
Don't wait that long.
The person asking is a father also of a 3-year-old that I know that you know that it's tough even getting them to school and back. So give it a few years, but most definitely I'm going to teach those kids how to walk, and we'll do some fantastic. We've got a Scottish road trip coming up to Harris and Lewis soon, so that will be quite epic.
Don't wait too long. Just do it. Just do it. Okay, so the plan is that if you want to refill your glasses, there's going to be some young McPhees bringing food around. But first of all, Pete wanted to say something. No?
Jim.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Jim, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you both. That was a lovely talk. And having attended many book launches, that was probably one of the best.
You have to say
and the most entertaining. No, I don't have to say that, believe me. I've been to a lot of friends' book launches and I wouldn't say that to anyone. On behalf of Sparzel Books, once again, we're really, really proud and happy to have your book. I would like to take just a moment to thank all the people behind the scenes. The book wouldn't exist without you, but the book in its present form wouldn't exist without the team in Sparza. You have Stephen, who did all your proofreading. You have Leslie, who edited the book. You have Wendy, who's done so much work getting it ready for publication and getting everything organised. Most people don't realise, but it's a bit like you know, a duck swimming. Everything's paddling under the water, but you don't see it. That's what publishing is like. I have, if you don't mind, I would just like to read out, if I can find it again, a message that I received today. Now, this is from the organisers of the Tidelines Book Festival, which will be in September in Irvine. After further discussion, we have decided to give Claudia a stand-alone afternoon slot to appeal to trekkers, hill climbers and a wide variety of people. The challenges she faced were incredible. She's an individual to be admired. And lastly, this might come as a slight surprise, there's been a couple of questions that have impinged on this a little bit, and we decided to leave it to the end just in case we were upsetting too much. But we've been in contact just this week with a company who specialises in taking books and turning them into films or television shows, and they themselves don't do this. They present it to people like Netflix and movie companies, and they're very interested in talking to you. Anyway, lastly, I would just like to point out that downstairs we have a table. We have copies of the book. We have a beautiful author who will be happy to sign those copies of the book, especially if you cross our palm with silver. And don't think of this as an opportunity to buy a book for yourself. Think of it as an opportunity to buy 20 or 30 as Christmas presents. Thank you very much. And lastly, once again, could I have a round of applause for our author?